Hey everyone, Art McDermott here. Great to see you again. It is a Saturday morning and the whole world is getting ready for this big snowstorm. We haven't had a whole lot this year, but apparently this is going to be a little bigger. So, of course, the media is going insane. But I like to do these after my morning workout. Made sure I got that in, storm coming or not. And I had a few interesting thoughts that popped in my brain. Something that I actually read this week in the paper that I wanted to pass along was the death of an American poet named Mary Oliver, and I am ashamed to say that I am not very familiar with her work. I did read the article on it, but I suddenly have a new poet, a new favorite poet to read, and I thought it was really interesting. And some of her really most quoted passages I want to touch on today because, again, I'm adding these to my favorite quote list. They're pretty impressive. You can bet, however, I will become familiar with Miss Oliver's work. She passed away at age 83, spent most of her life down in Provincetown, and that's why it was in the local paper. But here are the quotes that really jumped out at me when I started looking at some of these stories. It says, tell me, what is it you plan to do with this wild and precious life? And apparently that is her most quoted passage. And I'm like, wow, that's really short. It's simple and really powerful. I like that one. What is it you plan to do with this wild and precious life? And I'm going to get to, of course, my spin on that in a minute. And her second quote, which I really enjoyed just as much as the first, it says, goes like this: listen, are you breathing just a little and calling it a life? Like that is being called out in a very swift manner. So how I interpreted these when I read them, and I was pondering these things while I spent about a half an hour on the treadmill this morning, as my mind tends to wander. I said, we're all making these decisions now that will determine exactly how our lives will be in 5 to 10 years from now. And so the person you are in the future is based on everything you're doing today, every decision you make today. So what kind of comments would you get from this person living that life? Okay. And down the road, the future you, what would they look back and say to you now? Would you be getting yelled at, or would you be getting thanked about what your actions are? Like, all of us spend so much time planning our careers and making sure our kids are all set and their futures are certain, and planning our financial health, right, for retirement, things like that. And all these things are, of course, incredibly valuable, but they don't mean anything if you're not really there, right? If you're not going to be around, then that's not doesn't mean much of anything. So we spend all this time doing it, but why is our health planning so, like, almost universally ignored, particularly after age 50? I was at the gym this morning. I'll tell you right now, it's not dominated by 50-year-olds. All right. So if you think, I just want to clarify one thing. If you believe that your quality of life won't improve, if you don't think your thinking and your clarity and your energy levels, all of that will not improve, if you don't think that the life you're going to live won't be fuller and more vibrant when you take care of your health, you are seriously mistaken. Seriously mistaken. And here's a quick thought on to men out there seeing this. I plan to maybe do more of this with the newsletter that some of you have been receiving. By the way, if you want to get my newsletter, I actually have a hard copy printed newsletter that I sent out to people as a quick aside here. And if you want to get that, just send me an email, I'll send it to you. For now, it's free. I just want to put this stuff out there. But anyway, in those of you who get that newsletter, I'm going to start to see some themes. One of the themes I'm going to have is directed to a lot of stuff towards men, because if you're not a male, you certainly, there are other males and fathers and brothers and significant others, whatever it may be in your life. So, so why men in particular? Because we tend to overachieve when it comes to dying younger than women. Pardon my sarcasm there, but although women are doing a pretty decent job at catching up when it comes to dying of heart disease, but both men and women do a really decent job at career planning and things like that, really thinking in the future and retirement, all that good stuff. But one term you will hear, especially if you're an entrepreneur, right? If you're in business for yourself, is a term called planning the concept of an exit strategy. So if you're a male and you're in your 50s or more, if you are 40 pounds or so overweight or more, Unfortunately, you have, for the most part, put your exit strategy in place. And that exit strategy is not going to be at age 83. I'm sorry to tell you. All right. And I don't say this to be alarmist. It's just a reality. You don't see a lot of extremely overweight 80-year-olds, do you? That's just the reality, just the way the world works, the way physiology goes, right? So I'm going to ask you this again, a parting thought. Tell me, what it you plan to do with this wild and precious life? And are you breathing just a little and calling it a life? I want to thank Mary Oliver for those quotes. Think about that one this weekend. Enjoy the storm. Enjoy the big game. We'll talk to you soon.